There is a place on Earth where construction was never supposed to happen. 4 kilometers above sea level, where the air itself is the enemy, where machines refuse to work, and where the human body starts shutting down within hours of arrival. China is building a high-speed railway straight through it. But altitude is not the real story. Because as engineers pushed deeper into this terrain, they discovered 3 problems that no railway project in history had ever faced. The first problem attacked the workers, the machines, and the materials, all at the same time. The second problem was hiding beneath the ground, and it was worse than anyone predicted. And the third problem? It was the mountains themselves, because on this route, the mountains fight back. Literally. Over 90% of this railway runs through tunnels and across bridges, because on this terrain, open ground cannot be trusted. This is the most extreme railway ever attempted, and this is how China is building it. First, understand what this railway is trying to do. It connects Chengdu, one of China's largest cities sitting in a basin just 500 meters above sea level, to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, sitting on a plateau at over 3,600 meters. Between them, 1,629 kilometers of the most geologically violent terrain on Earth, 16 mountain ranges, 3 of Asia's greatest rivers, and a vertical climb of 3 kilometers. No railway has ever attempted this combination. And the moment construction began, the first problem announced itself. Not in the ground, not in the mountains, but in the air itself. Problem number 1. The plateau attacks everything at once. The Tibetan Plateau sits at an average elevation of over 4,500 meters across large stretches of the route. At that altitude, atmospheric pressure drops to roughly half of what it is at sea level. And that single fact attacks a construction site on 3 fronts simultaneously. The workers, the machines, the materials. Exactly as promised, all at the same time. The workers first. Altitude sickness strikes within hours of arrival. Headaches, nausea, disorientation, and in serious cases, fluid building in the lungs and brain. Engineers designed entire medical systems into the construction operation. Pressurized rest facilities, permanent on-site medical teams, and strict rotation schedules moving workers between high-altitude sites and lower recovery camps before their bodies reach dangerous limits. Then the machines. Diesel engines rely on oxygen for combustion. At 4,500 meters, there is not enough of it. Excavators, drilling rigs, and concrete mixers lost significant power at altitude. China's engineers developed modified high-altitude machinery specifically for this project, equipment recalibrated for low-oxygen environments with adjusted fuel systems built around the pressure difference. And finally, the materials. At high altitude, water boils at lower temperatures and evaporates faster, changing the chemistry of how concrete cures. Standard mixing ratios produced weaker results. Engineers developed altitude-specific concrete formulas, tested at the actual elevations of each construction site before a single permanent structure could be poured. The plateau had no intention of cooperating. Engineers redesigned their workforce, their machinery, and their materials around it. Problem 1 solved. But the plateau's thin air was only the surface. The real threat was waiting underground, and no one predicted how bad it would get. Problem number 2. What was hiding beneath the ground? The Sichuan-Tibet corridor sits at the collision point of the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates, the same collision that formed the Himalayas. That collision has not stopped. The plates are still grinding, still releasing seismic energy through the rock beneath the railway's entire route. The 2008 Sichuan earthquake, which killed nearly 70,000 people, originated directly in this zone. The railway crosses multiple active fault lines, meaning the ground beneath the tracks is permanently in motion. When a fault moves, the ground on either side can shift in opposite directions simultaneously. A tunnel crossing an active fault could be sheared apart not by shaking, but by the earth physically moving in 2 directions at once. Engineers mapped every fault line using geological surveys, satellite data, and deep borehole analysis. Where the railway crossed an active fault, they built flexible structural joints into tunnels and bridges at those exact points, allowing the structure to absorb ground movement without fracturing. But the earthquakes were the threat everyone knew about. The one hiding beneath the ground, the one worse than anyone predicted, revealed itself only when the drilling went deep. The rock was hot, not warm, hot. As tunnels pushed deeper, ground temperatures climbed to 89 degrees Celsius, the highest ever recorded for any transport infrastructure project on Earth. The heat comes from the same tectonic collision that built the plateau, trapped inside the crust and radiating upward along fault lines. At those temperatures, standard machinery fails. Workers cannot remain at the workface for more than minutes at a time. Engineers pumped cold air into the tunnels and hauled ice underground, just to keep drilling through rock hot enough to boil water. The railway was not built on stable ground. It was built to survive ground that moves and burns. Problem 2, solved. But one enemy remained, the mountains themselves. And they were not going to let the railway through quietly. Problem number 3, the mountains fight back. Between the Sichuan Basin and the Tibetan Plateau, the Hengduan Mountains rise and fall across deep river gorges separating the Jinsha, the Langkang, and the New rivers. A railway cannot climb a 3,000-meter mountain. The gradient must stay within limits. Trains can safely brake and climb on. Across terrain that rises and falls thousands of meters within short horizontal distances, that left one option: go through the mountains, not over them. Over 90% of the railway runs through tunnels or across bridges. The Sigila Mountain Tunnel stretches approximately 38 kilometers. Among the longest railway tunnels ever drilled. Bridges span gorges so deep that clouds form beneath them on certain mornings. But this is where the mountains fight back, literally. At depths exceeding 700 meters, the pressure of the rock above becomes so immense that tunnel walls don't crack. They explode. Engineers call them rock bursts. A section of tunnel wall shatters without warning, ejecting rock fragments at deadly speed. In one documented burst on this project, the tunnel wall expanded from 3 meters deep to 7 meters in an instant. Hundreds of cubic meters of rock collapsing in seconds, halting construction for weeks. At the deepest sections, 2,500 meters below the surface, rock stress reaches 90 megapascals, a mountain pressing down on every square meter of tunnel wall. Engineers monitor the rock continuously for signs of imminent release, but the bursts cannot always be predicted. The mountains could not be climbed. So engineers went through them and faced everything the mountains had waiting inside. Problem 3, solved. The Sichuan-Tibet Railway is currently under construction with sections opening progressively. When complete, it will be the most technically complex railway ever built. 1,629 kilometers, 16 mountain ranges, 3 great rivers, over 550 bridges, over 991 tunnels, an estimated cost exceeding $29 billion. Rock reaching 89 degrees Celsius underground. Pressure so immense it explodes tunnel walls. No other railway on Earth was built under these conditions. And no other railway will connect 2 worlds as different as the Sichuan Basin and the Tibetan Plateau, a vertical journey of 3,000 meters, made smooth enough for passengers to sleep through. That is the Sichuan-Tibet Railway. Next week, China needed to move water. Not across a city, not across a region, across an entire country, from the wet south to the dry north, at a scale that makes every other water project on Earth look small. The South-North Water Transfer Project. Subscribe, and we'll see you next week.